Hello, I'm back. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be drawing a D&D character based on the roll of the dice.
Let's bring out the Tower of Destiny!
So we have a Genasi Witch, and I've decided to go with Water Witch largely because I had a comment previously asking to include a glittering snowflake and a bug in the next drawing that I did, and the glittering snowflake kind of inspired me to make this Genasi a water Genasi, but specifically around the area of like frost and ice and things like that. So in terms of the type of witch, I want this to be kind of like a snow ice queen style witch. Well, maybe not queen, but like an icy witch person. And these are the inspo pics that I chose. So you can see I kind of have a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to do for this one. Of course, I've put the Water Genasi description up here where it says their skin is often shades of blue or green, sometimes a blend of the two, and their hair can resemble seaweed waving as if in a current, or it can even be like water itself. So I wanted to make her hair like water except it's frozen. So I try that later. You'll see how I go. Let's get started. So for those of you not familiar with Genasi, they are basically humanoid creatures who have descended from different kinds of genies. So in this case, it's aquatic genies from the elemental plane of water. You can also get fire Genasi, earth Genasi, and air Genasi. Some special traits for a water Genasi include acid resistance, which means you're resistant to acid damage, amphibious, meaning you can breathe air and water, something called call to the wave. So it says you know the acid splash cantrip, and then starting at 3rd level you can cast the create or destroy water spell with this trait, and then you get more things as you level up as well. Because this is an ice Genasi, just a little bit of a homebrew situation there, I would actually talk to my DM about whether I could replace the acid splash cantrip with one of the cold themed cantrips that are available in the spells list. So frostbite or ray of frost are both cantrips that it's probably fine if you just replace one cantrip with another cantrip, because acid doesn't make as much sense as, you know, frostbite would for this particular character. I'd also get rid of the resistance to acid and turn that into resistance to cold damage, because someone who's this icy probably shouldn't freeze easily. Now looking at the class, which again is a homebrewy, this is very homebrewy character. I haven't, as some of you, if you've already been watching, know, I haven't written up classes for vampire or witch, and there is one for mermaid which I want to add to the list that Ginny D did, but I'll link to it. She did a video about it. I'll link to that below. But basically I haven't done classes for these creatures because in my opinion there are too many kinds and I would need to really sit down and think about it. But in this case, the type of witch is very much like a water witch, so an elemental style witch who does a lot of spell work, but works very closely with nature. So something like that, I would either base the class in druid with a sort of combination of whatever spells, because there's a lot of spells that you can only learn if you're a certain type of class, whereas in this one, I would basically take all of the like cold spells, anything that mentions like ice or frost, anything that you would expect a icy elemental creature to know, and form a class around that rather than having the class and then chucking in the spells at the end. So Yeah, that's all mechanical stuff though. This is more her vibe. This is her vibe. I'm drawing her. I'm not playing as her. I'm looking more at her stats to sort of set her personality than I would necessarily just from like she's a icy water witch Genasi person. You could have a really old, decrepit one who's very weak, one who's sort of lost her marbles, or you could have a child. You could have a million things. But here in the abilities table is where you can see that she's very good across the board. So she hasn't lost her marbles. She's got her +2 intelligence and a +1 to wisdom. Her wisdom is her lowest score and it's still a +1. But her strength is her highest score, which means she's very fit. She's into athletics. She likes to run around. She probably climbs things pretty often, possibly even slippery, icy cliffs or whatever it is she does for fun. Definitely good in a snowball fight, I would say. And that sort of informs the vibe as well, the way that I'm drawing her attitude. She has a little bug sidekick. What should we call her? I think she can be Kelly and the bug can be Digby. So Kelly and Digby are friends to the end. I think that she's grown up in this Arctic tundra where there aren't a lot of people. So I think she maybe comes from a small family in a very small village and the rest is just Arctic white nothingness. So her inspiration to go out and adventure is very much coming from the desire to meet new people, make new friends, see what else is out there in the world. And it is a little bit of a Disney princess with her sidekick vibe, I must admit. I didn't go out to make it that way, but whatever, it's cute. I like it. So the adventures of Kelly and Digby coming to theaters soon. That's a lie. They're not. That's a lie. They're not coming to theaters soon. So in terms of playing with this character in regular settings, she obviously would bring icy magic to the table. But if I was to DM with a character like this as my inspiration point, I would actually say that she thinks that she's just living in like an Arctic continent or a small, relatively small area to the world, and she wants to get away from the ice and snow and meet people in jungles and the deserts and all the different terrains that she's heard about growing up, only to find that the whole world is a frozen tundra. So something has happened that has made everywhere cold like this. And perhaps she needs to help her adventuring party to get to the bottom of why. And she would be a particular asset because everyone else in the party doesn't have this ice resistance. So they would need to do a lot of survival checks to avoid exhaustion. They'd need to make sure that they have sufficient clothing, that they're not freezing to death, hunting and having rations, and just all the details that you can have the other party members maybe struggle with, but she finds this easy, so she can be like a real asset to the team. Otherwise, yeah, you could have her sort of leave her icy continent and immediately the opposite of what I just said. Immediately she struggles with like how hot it is, even though to anyone else it's not hot, it's just regular. So if she's ever in an environment where it is like lava and fire, she could be taking on like actual damage from that. So she's weak to like heat damage. That could be a fun way to play her as well, and to have a world where like her magical abilities and her natural ice powers can either be like a huge help or just like a burden to the whole party. So if I was going to play as this character, I'd want to give her some flaws to make it a bit more interesting. And right now she's very happy, merry-go-lucky. She has wisdom, but I think in terms of her going out and adventuring and meeting new people and all that exciting stuff, she hasn't necessarily realized there's a lot of nitty-gritty involved. So I think I would play her starting out as very optimistic and altruistic, so very giving, and coming from a small village, she's used to people just helping each other without any expectation of payment. But I think as she goes into the bigger cities and sort of interacts with people who are a bit less kind, she might develop some sort of anxiety around dealing with people who are unpleasant. And particularly, she might become very materialistic, which means she's going to eventually only be interested in helping people if there's money in it for her. So what started out as being like, I'm going to save the world, I'm going to help everyone, I'm going on all these adventures kind of character, she has learned, or she will learn the hard way, that things cost money. So if you want to sleep in the soft bed that you're accustomed to, you have to have the money to pay for that. And if you want to eat your favorite dish every night for dinner, you need to have the money to pay for that, or you need to be able to afford the ingredients, and you need to cook it, and you need to bring it with you. And it's all these little things that, like, kind of like when you first went on a sleepover at a friend's house and they had a different toothpaste, and for whatever reason you're like, that's so weird and I hate it. I think those, just the little things all piling up, will really get to her. So as she meets her new friends and learns about their different culture, she has to realize that she might have to adopt part of their cultures in order to make them feel comfortable, just like they are adopting parts of hers to make her feel comfortable. And that's not something she's used to. She's used to everyone in her village feeling the same way about all the same things. And yeah, the romanticized idea of meeting new people kind of gets that bubble pop of like, oh, I'm not just like at a theme park, I'm actually immersing myself in people's lives. And yeah, that could be, I think that would be really fun to play. I hope I'm making sense here. I don't want to come off sounding like she's going to be just this horrible bitch, but like, she might be. It depends how like, in terms of her story arc, it depends how quickly she turns from helping people because it's right to helping people for a specific amount of money, and then only helping people who can afford to pay. And I think this would particularly be a more realistic thing to do in that, like, the whole world is a tundra story, because like, it's kind of like Mad Max except cold. Like, everyone's doing it rough, and so everyone has a very short fuse. And maybe while she thought she was coming from the only cold area, maybe she was coming from the only like small village where they still treat each other well and they still have the resources to look after each other. And maybe it was largely because of Kelly. Maybe it's because she has all this ice magic and ability to protect them that is now gone, that even if she goes home to her village, she'll find that they're now living in poverty and they're all at each other's throats. Or maybe they're just completely decimated each other, and she thinks that someone came and attacked the village, but in reality, they did it to themselves. You know, lots of ideas. Lots of fun, really chipper ideas. Just happy Wednesday, guys. Depending on where you are, it might be Thursday? I forget which way. It might be Tuesday. Whatever. Let me know if you're in a different country, what day it comes out for you. But, yes, I hope you like Kelly and Gatsby. And would you ever want to play such a homebrewed character, being an Ice Genasi and a witch? Or would you just play Ice Genasi and then couple it with like Druid or something like that? Thanks for watching. I hope you had a great time, and I'll catch you next week.